I had been with the company for 25 years, pouring my heart and soul into every project, every deadline, every client meeting. I started as an intern fresh out of college and worked my way up to a senior management position. Over the years, I had dedicated everything I had to this company. It wasn't just a job, it was my life, my identity. I had seen it through every high and low, every success and setback, but that all changed in the blink of an eye. It was a regular Tuesday morning when I got the call. Carla, my boss, someone I had worked with for over 2 decades, someone I had trusted, asked me to come into her office. The way she said it seemed off, but I figured it was just another meeting to discuss upcoming projects or initiatives. What I didn't know was that I was walking into the moment that would shatter everything. When I sat down in her office, she didn't waste any time. "We're making some changes," she said, her voice strangely calm, almost cold. "We've decided to move in a different direction, and unfortunately, that means we're going to have to let you go." I stared at her in shock, my mind struggling to make sense of the words that were coming out of her mouth. This couldn't be real. After 25 years, after everything I had done for her and the company, this was how it ended? "Carla, what do you mean? I've dedicated my whole career to this company," I said, my voice shaking as I tried to comprehend what was happening. I had been loyal, hard-working, and had sacrificed so much. How could she just throw me away? She leaned back in her chair, looking almost detached. "I'm sorry, but there's an opportunity we need to capitalize on, and this deal is too important for us to miss. The $15 million deal is on the table, and we need someone younger, more agile, and more in line with the future of the company to lead the charge. I wish you all the best, but this is the way it has to be." I was stunned, my heart racing. A $15 million deal? Was that really the reason she was letting me go? For money? After all these years, all the loyalty I had shown her, the company was willing to throw me away for the sake of a deal? I stood up, my hands trembling. "So, that's it? Just like that? I'm out?" Carla didn't even flinch. She just nodded. "Yes, I'm sorry. This is what's best for the company." I left her office that day, feeling numb. I was fired, not because I wasn't good enough, not because I wasn't dedicated. I was fired because my boss had decided to sacrifice me for a deal worth more than the loyalty I had given her for a quarter of a century. I felt a deep, burning sense of betrayal as I walked out of the building. Everything had changed in an instant. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, my mind racing with thoughts of what had just happened. I couldn't believe it. After 25 years of hard work, dedication, and loyalty, I was just being thrown out like I meant nothing. It wasn't just the firing that stung, it was the fact that I had trusted Carla and she had betrayed me. I had always believed in the company's mission, in her leadership, and in the direction we were headed. But now I was left questioning everything. I went home that afternoon and tried to process what had happened, but the weight of the betrayal kept crashing down on me. I couldn't help but think about all the late nights, the sacrifices I made to ensure the company's success. And for what? So that she could seal a $15 million deal? That was what I was worth to her, a price tag. I wasn't even a person anymore. I was a line item to balance the books. The next few weeks were a blur. I filed for unemployment, updated my resume, and began reaching out to my network. But even with all the support from friends and former colleagues, I couldn't shake the feeling of injustice. It wasn't just about losing my job. It was the way it was done. There was no warning, no discussion, no appreciation for everything I had done. I had been blindsided, and now I had to figure out how to rebuild my life, my career, and my sense of self-worth. Then, just as I was starting to think about my next move, I got an unexpected call. It was from Carla. At first, I didn't even recognize the number, but when I picked up, her voice was unmistakable. "Hey, it's Carla," she said. There was a nervous tone to her voice that I had never heard before. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation, and I don't know how to say this, but I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After everything that had happened, she was reaching out to me? What could she possibly have to say after firing me so callously? Still, curiosity got the best of me, and I agreed to meet her. The next day, I walked into the coffee shop where we had arranged to meet, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I was pretty sure I wasn't prepared for what was coming. When Carla saw me, she stood up immediately, her face red with embarrassment. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice trembling. "I know this is probably the last thing you want to do, but I need to apologize for how everything went down. I made a huge mistake." I sat down across from her, feeling the anger rise up in my chest again. "A mistake?" I asked. "You fired me without any warning, without any explanation, all for the sake of a deal that you thought would be a quick fix. And now you want to apologize?" Carla looked down at her coffee, avoiding my gaze. "I know it was wrong," she said softly, "but I was under pressure. The company was facing serious financial issues, and I thought this deal would save us. I never meant to hurt you, but I let the numbers cloud my judgment. You've been such a loyal employee for so long, and I took that for granted." I shook my head. "So, it was all about the deal? About the money?" She nodded, her eyes full of regret. "Yes, but I didn't realize what I was losing in the process. You weren't just an employee to me, you were the backbone of this company. I should have recognized that. I should have trusted you." I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her just how much she had hurt me, but the other part of me recognized that her words, though too late, were sincere. She was shaking. Her pride had been shattered, and she knew it. "I want to make things right," she continued. "I've spoken to the board, and I've made it clear that the promotion and firing decisions were mine alone. I've already talked to HR about reinstating you, and I would like to offer you a position to come back. It's not the same as before, but I'll make sure you're recognized for your contributions." I stared at her, disbelief and frustration mixing inside me. She was asking me to come back after everything? After firing me to seal a deal that had barely worked out? After she had left me in the dust? My emotions were all over the place. "I appreciate the offer, Carla," I said, keeping my voice steady, "but I can't just pretend like everything is fine. You've made your decision, and I have to live with it. But I won't come back. I've moved on." Carla sat there, looking like she had been struck. For a moment, there was complete silence between us. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. It seemed like she was struggling to process what I had just said. After all, she had come here with an offer, trying to right her wrong, expecting me to accept her apology and come crawling back. But I wasn't going to be her safety net anymore, not after everything. I could see the regret in her eyes, but that didn't change the fact that she had dismissed me, disrespected me, and fired me without even considering the years I had given to the company that I had helped build, that I had poured my soul into for a quarter of a century. How could I just walk back into that toxic environment? How could I trust someone who had discarded me so easily for the sake of a deal? "I understand why you're upset," Carla finally said, her voice trembling. "But you have to know that I made this decision because I believed it was what was best for the company. We needed someone who could make decisions quickly, someone who would be flexible, and I thought you—" "Stop," I interrupted, my voice firm. "Don't make excuses. You didn't even give me a chance to explain myself. You didn't even consider that the changes you were making might hurt the people who had been there for years, who had bled for the company. You didn't look at the people. You just looked at the money." She looked down, ashamed. "You're right," she whispered. "I should have handled this differently. I was blinded by the deal and the pressure I was under. I didn't realize how much I was damaging the team, how much I was damaging you." I leaned forward, my hands clasped in front of me on the table. "I gave you everything," I said softly, but with intense clarity. "And this is how you repay me? For a deal?" Her face turned pale and she wiped her eyes. I could tell she hadn't expected me to be so resolute in my decision. But I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else decide my worth anymore. I had been given a chance to take control of my life, and I wasn't about to give that up just for the sake of a paycheck. Carla sat in silence for a few moments before she spoke again. "I understand," she said, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry, truly. I was wrong. I know I can't undo what I did, but I do want to make amends somehow." I nodded, standing up from the table. "I appreciate the apology, but it's too late for that now. I've already made my decision, and I'm moving on. I've started looking for new opportunities, and I've already had some great offers. The future is waiting for me, and it's time for me to step into it." I didn't feel anger anymore, just a sense of closure. I knew that leaving her, leaving that company, was the best thing I could do for myself. I wasn't going to be a part of a company that didn't value me, that didn't see my worth until it was too late. I was worth more than that, and I knew it. Carla stood up as well, and for the first time in our conversation, she looked me in the eye with a sense of humility. "I wish you the best," she said, her voice sincere. "I know I've lost a valuable person, and I don't blame you for walking away." I didn't need her pity, and I didn't need her approval. I had found something greater than the approval of a company or the praise of my boss. I had found my own sense of purpose again. I had realized that I didn't need to be defined by a job or the opinion of people who failed to see my worth. With one final look at Carla, I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. The doors opened and closed behind me, and I felt a sense of freedom that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was finally taking control of my own life, and I was ready to embrace whatever the future had in store. I had learned something valuable from all of this. It wasn't just about losing a job, it was about finding yourself again, about realizing your own strength, and about knowing that you are worth more than the circumstances you find yourself in. I was no longer bound by a title or a company. I was bound only by my own dreams and my own potential. And as I stepped forward into the next chapter of my life, I knew I was ready. Ready to embrace new opportunities, to create something meaningful, and to build the life I deserved. This wasn't just about leaving a job. It was about leaving behind everything that held me back and walking towards something better. The next few weeks were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't regret my decision to leave the company, but the uncertainty of what came next was unsettling. After 25 years, I had built my entire life around this job. The people I had worked with, the projects I had managed, the countless hours spent trying to make the company thrive, it all felt like a distant memory now. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that letting go was the only way to grow. I couldn't stay in a place where I wasn't valued, where my contributions meant nothing. The calls and messages from former colleagues started coming in, some offering words of support, while others seemed hesitant to reach out. Carla, surprisingly, had given me space, understanding that I needed time. But as I began to gather my bearings, I started to feel something I hadn't in a long time: freedom. I spent the first few weeks in a haze, dealing with logistics, updating my resume, reaching out to my network, and figuring out my financial situation. But then, something surprising happened. One morning, I got an email from a former business partner, Liam, who had worked with me during some of my best years at the company. "Hey, I heard about what happened with Carla. I've got a project that might be perfect for you. You're exactly the type of person I need to help lead this," the email said. I almost didn't believe it. But when I called Liam, his tone was warm and genuine. He explained that his company was going through a huge growth phase, and they were looking for someone with my experience to help lead their new expansion. It wasn't just a job offer, it was an opportunity to build something from the ground up, to use all the lessons I had learned in the last 25 years, to create something that truly mattered. I was shocked. This was the opportunity I had been waiting for. An opportunity to start fresh, to work with a company that valued my skills, and to do so on my own terms. Over the next few weeks, I worked out the details, met with the team, and began planning my role in the new venture. I didn't have to prove myself to anyone. They already knew what I was capable of. It felt good to be trusted, to be seen for who I was. But as things started to settle, I couldn't help but think about Carla. I hadn't heard from her since our meeting at the coffee shop, but I knew I had made the right decision. Even as I moved forward in my new role, a part of me felt a deep sense of validation, knowing that I had made the bold choice to leave behind the familiar for something more meaningful. Eventually, Carla did reach out. She apologized again, and we had a brief, honest conversation about what had happened. She admitted that she had been under pressure and made mistakes. I could tell that she felt a weight of regret for how she handled things, but I didn't need her apology anymore. I had moved on. I realized then that I had been looking for external validation for far too long, validation from the company, from my boss, and from the people around me. What I had needed all along was to recognize my own worth and the value I brought to the table. I had done that, and now I was in control of my own future. As I started my new chapter, I was reminded of the power of letting go, of walking away from what no longer served me and opening myself up to new opportunities. The fear that had once held me back was gone. I had rediscovered myself, and it felt incredible.